video, I'm going to be doing a comparison of two retractable swords and why it is that this one costs £10 and this one costs 20. So I'm not going to be looking at either the wooden or the metal sword, that will come up in a future video, just the two retractable swords that you see here today. There's two things I'd like to add before I begin this comparison. Why it is that you'd even want to consider a retractable sword. Well, there are two particular benefits that I can see. One is not only are they cheap and lightweight and portable in the sense that they compress to a very small size, which makes it very easy to carry around with you rather than strap it samurai-like onto your back. And the other advantage is, well, if you're training with a bamboo cane, for example, or some other implement like I might have discussed before with you, such as a mop handle or a broomstick, these actually give you the opportunity of exploring wrist angles with meaning, not something you can easily do with a round piece of bamboo. So let's get on with the comparison, and first we're going to look at cheapy £10. So what do you get for your tenner? Well, you get the sword, you get the tassel attached, you get a training pouch, and you get this little safety cap on top. So that's what you get for your tenner. Good things about the £10 sword is that it weighs nothing, and the extendable sword, to get the middle point for balance, I'm talking about here. You'll see that with the other sword, how different that is in the moment. So there's no weight up this end. So if you have a weak wrist or a weak arm, or you really want the lightest possible training implement, then I would recommend the £10 variation. Why would you want to pay any more than a tenner? Well, this was my first retractable sword and I thought I could get away with just a tenner, and it works pretty much as it says on the box. You may think, fantastic, why would I want to pay more? Well, if you look closely, you'll see that there is a gap at the end. And if you can hear, that gap is actually the very tip that fell down inside the sword, and it won't come out. So the conclusion is that it's not very effective in terms of retracting. It may lose its tip, but it's extremely lightweight and cheap. One little pointer is that when retracting the sword, don't use your hand like I did. You'll just end up cutting it. Push it against something solid, like pushing it against the wall here, and it folds up. Okay. Comes out again. Don't push it back again with your hand. Use a solid object to push it against. Okay, so that's the £10 sword. Let's look at the £20 version. So here's the £20 version that arrived today. I haven't really been training with it as such, but I did want to give you this review as soon as I could because there was a couple of really obvious differences that I think are worth pointing out. The first is the sheer weight of it. It weighs at least 2 to 3 times heavier than this one. The reason that it weighs so much is because it contains weights in the hilt, 2 here and 1 underneath. And you can look at these because with this version of the sword, you'll find it's got several screws. I think there's about 8 screws that you can remove and open it up and take those weights out if it's too heavy for you to use. So overall, a slightly better make. Now let's move on to the sword itself. Safety cap, take off. And again, it's exactly the same as the other sword. Opens out just as easily, pushes back in again without a problem. Looking at the overall balance, as you can see, it's much closer to the hilt. A lot more weight in here, a lot more of a feeling of holding on to something with a bit more substance. And as for the tip, it's not a separate piece. It's almost like it's been welded into the last segment. So it's unlikely to fall in, hopefully. As I say, it only arrived today, so who knows, ask me again in 2 weeks. So I'm just going to push that back in. What else did it come with? It comes with its tassels unattached, which explains why they're not hanging on the end here. So you get a choice when you order it online about the colour of the tassel that you want. Now I ordered a yellow one because there was a red one on the previous one, so I thought I'd order a different colour. But what came in the package was a surprise. Not only did it provide a red one that I hadn't asked for, but look what else it came with. This fantastic double huge great big what looks like a mop head. Compare that to the red one. So that's the one I'm probably going to end up using, although it does look a bit big, so I might only use one of those. I don't know, I'll see how it goes. The other interesting thing it came with, again it didn't say when you went to order it online, was it came with these. Some sort of support bandage for your wrist. Perhaps these are useful for anyone who may be suffering with a weak wrist or a weak arm and wants to learn but would like the additional support that these, they're almost like bandages, would give. So overall, I think for the extra tenner, you get the superb double tassels in 2 colours, you get the training mitts, and you get a much heavier sword. And if it proves to be too heavy, you can always remove one of the weights or all of them if that's an issue for you. Well, that's it on the comparison of the £10 and the £20 retractable Tai Chi sword. Personally, I'd go for that one. I'll give you links in the notes beneath to both in case you're more tempted by one or the other. Well, that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's been useful for you about deciding which of these would be more appropriate for your training. Next up, I'll introduce some of the basic footwork and arm movements to get your sword training underway.